space for two, and we'll be talking about self-care. But before we get to that, I'd just like to mention that today is the 11th of July, and for many of you, you'll be aware that it's the anniversary of the massacre and genocide in Srebrenica, where 8,000 Bosnian men and children were executed by the Serbian forces. Our thoughts and prayers are with those families to this day, and actually it's such an example of what happens or can happen when hate is allowed to run rampant, and when people don't take the time and effort to understand each other and accept each other with their differences, whether those differences are based on faith, sexual orientation or on gender. So, you know, it's a really heartbreaking situation that happened 22 years ago, and there are mothers and daughters and sisters who to this day don't know what's happened to their husbands and to their male relatives. And like I said, once again, you know, may Allah make their suffering end, may they find closure, and just as this week they've discovered 71 more identities of these lost brothers, may Allah bring, you know, an end to the suffering of everyone, and may Allah grant us peace in our lifetime. Ameen. So, without any further ado, I'd just like to remind us, one, that we're live on YouTube, two, that the show is open to everyone to interact with. So if you want to phone us, the number will be coming up along the bottom of the screen, so do join us. And now it's my great pleasure to welcome these wonderful ladies from the Speakers Corners Collective, and today's show is about self-care. So I'm not going to try and explain that. I'm going to introduce my guests and then they can take us away. So do you want to just introduce yourselves and tell us, you know, where you've come from?
Okay, so my name's Sasha, and I work for NHS in Bradford, and also I'm part of the Speakers Corner Collective.
I'm Maddy Khan and I'm 16 years old, and I've just left Dixon City, and yeah, I'm part of Speakers Corner Collective as well.
Thank you, welcome.
My name's Iram Rahman, and I'm also part of Speakers Corner Collective, and yeah, I've also left school.
Fantastic, thank you for coming and giving us your valuable time.
It's fine.
My name's Mamuna, I'm 16, and yeah, I'm a student in Bradford, and I'm also part of Speakers Corner Collective.
Okay, thank you. So, since you're the last person I've just spoken to, do you want to tell us quickly what the Speakers Corner Collective is, because we mentioned it 4 times?
So Speakers Corner is a safe space in Bradford. It's a social space for young people and adults in Bradford to come in and talk about change that they can make in the city, but also issues that maybe they're suffering with at the moment. It's just a place for the youth to come in and talk about issues that affect them in their daily lives. So we're really just a place where if you've got an issue, there's action straight away. We've done protests, we have workshops on every Thursday. So we're quite an active group in Bradford. We're branching out to different organisations too, to kind of expand the movement, but it's just all about making change for the better in the city.
So would it be fair to say Speakers Corner Collective gives you an opportunity to talk about what's important to you, to understand maybe lots of factors around it, and then collectively start working with other organisations on changing your situation?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah? Is that a good summary? Yeah,
yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So, well, we're here to talk about self-care. So, Maddy, can I ask you to tell me what is self-care and why is it important?
Self-care is about your mental well-being as well as your physical. So by having self-care, you need to be able to know how to love yourself. And with self-care, it's important because it's about understanding that you're important and everyone else is important as well. So you need to understand that everyone is different and everyone's important, and just knowing that you're beautiful and you don't need to change for anyone. That's what self-care is.
MashaAllah, that's beautifully said. So, just help me understand, does that mean it's all about just pleasing yourself and shopping and pampering yourself? Is that what self-care is?
No, I don't think self-care, in a way that's a form of self-care, but I think self-care is more about look after yourself, not being selfish and always having time for yourself, but also just making sure you take time out to spend time and look after yourself, and just doing day-to-day. Obviously we get really busy with day-to-day life, but just having that time out to help yourself recover from your busy schedule.
Yes, and would it be fair to say that there's women particularly have a bit more of a self-care challenge?
I think yeah, it could be said that women, but I think it's important with both genders, because everyone gets busy with a busy schedule. So we just wanted to, through the event, wanted to emphasise that self-care is for everyone and not just one particular group of people.
Okay, so it's important to like you said, all genders, men and women. I think there is a particular challenge around women thinking it's okay to take time out. And it's because generally, and I am generalising, a lot of women are so busy looking after everybody else, you know, the family, if they've got children, the husband, the mother-in-law, if they work, they're busy looking after people at work as well. I have people where I work where people say, well, I'm like the mum, and you know, it's not, someone doesn't tell someone go and be the mum, but it's almost natural, and so they're busy caring in other ways as well, and it can take its toll.
I think there's a natural sense of women having that nurturing role, that they do look after everybody else before themselves, and I think one of the things that we're trying to do through self-care everywhere message is think about what can you do to look after yourself so that you are stronger to look after other people, and really kind of promoting some of the really small things that people can do to maintain their physical well-being, their mental well-being, and just generally be more stronger to deal with the challenges that we do have day to day in life. And so I'm interested in unpicking that with you a bit in a short while. But what I'd like to also ask is, so what goes wrong? What's the problem we're trying to fix with self-care? You know, if we don't do self-care, what happens to somebody?
I think if you don't do self-care, you can cause quite a big damage to yourself, because if you're not looking after yourself, it's quite bad, because you're not looking after your mental and physical well-being. Also, if you don't look after yourself, so if you don't self-care, you're doing damage to others as well, because you're not showing what's important. So if I didn't have my breakfast this morning, for example, I only had a cup of tea, that's quite damaging to myself, but it's also damaging to others, because I'll be quite ratty during the day, and that's not nice to other people. So yeah, it's about looking after yourself and looking after others as well. Like, Iram, tomorrow you're going to have breakfast, definitely. Today she didn't have nothing and she's been hungry all day. So tomorrow definitely to Iram now we're saying she needs to have breakfast, because she needs to like do self-care, she needs to show herself that she's important.
Absolutely. So what do you say to that, Iram? Do you have to practice what you preach?
Obviously. But this is what I mean, this is a prime example of being fixed in a busy schedule. I mean, today has been a busy day for all of us, and it does get hectic at times, and sometimes it's okay to be busy, but you need to, obviously I will preach this, but also do this myself, because sometimes we do preach things and we don't do it ourselves, but we do need to learn to actually take our own advice. And yeah, I just advise you all to just take care of yourselves and always have your breakfast, people.
And a healthy breakfast, if
a
you
healthy
can.
breakfast.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that saying about breakfast, which is you should breakfast like a king and supper like a pauper. Yeah. So, you know, you have your bigger meals in the morning and your smaller meals, whereas unfortunately a lot of our South Asian diets, again it's a generalisation, tend to be quite heavy, stodgy meals each point of the day, and then we tend to sleep quite late, and there's patterns in our food intake that we haven't quite adapted to the more sort of Western way of life as well, because we're not farming the land anymore per se, and we haven't got 40-degree weather to burn off anything, so we're not adapting necessarily, are we? It's quite interesting, the number of people think, I can run on empty without breakfast.
Yeah, definitely.
I used to do it. It didn't work. It catches up with you. Yeah, and the reason I was asking about the health, the self-care and what happens is because I suppose the implication of not doing it is what you said, you run on empty.
Yeah.
So someone was saying you can't fill other people's glasses if you're empty.
Yeah,
you know, so if you look at yourself as being the jug of water, for example, well, you can't pour anything out if you're already empty.
It's true.
So that's quite powerful, but equally there's elements of, you know, when we talked about mental health, so you start with low-level anxieties, stress, it could develop into something more serious, but physically, we've talked about breakfast. If you don't eat properly, your patterns aren't right, we've got the threat of diabetes, other, you know, eating disorders if the two things don't work together. This isn't a health show. I'm not a medical doctor. These are just, you know, things that can happen very easily if we don't take time out. And I've said this before, you know, I had some time off with stress a few years ago, and actually I was so busy I didn't notice. And it was because I wasn't doing the self-care stuff, so I wasn't taking time out to have a leisurely bath. I wasn't just saying, actually, you know what, world, stopped for a few minutes, I'm coming off the roundabout and I'm going to go and read a book for 10 minutes or whatever, and I wasn't practicing that kind of stuff, so you don't notice. If you don't take time out, you can't listen to your body, you can't listen to your mind actually. And our system, our body is so clever, you know, so you know, subhanallah, it's been so well designed that if we listen, it tells us what it needs, but we're so busy running around in this world, we don't quite get there early, do we? So those are some of the things that we said could go wrong. Give us some examples, if you would, of what you think people should be doing, could be doing to look after themselves.
I think having a routine is important. Obviously not doing the same thing over and over again, it is boring, it gets boring, but having a routine, as you said before, when you're going to eat, what you're going to eat, sometimes it's good to prepare beforehand, and a sleeping pattern, that's really important, because if you do not have a great sleeping pattern, you won't function right. You can not sleep well for a week, but that damage you for the next few months. So I think these little things really do matter. And sometimes we do forget, we forget about these small things, so we need to like step back sometimes, as you said, and like have these timetables.
So that point there you made about sleep, I'm terrible. I am a bit of a night owl, and then you know, obviously I've got to get up and go to my job early, so it is a bit of a challenge.
It's difficult,
actually. And my sisters are constantly going, why do you do this to yourself? You know, just go to bed early. And I'm like, you don't understand, I don't come in till 8 some days, and you know, I need to unwind, and it's a cycle that it's very hard to undo. But then particularly I've noticed, you know, and I've mentioned before, I've got lots of nieces and nephews and I'm surrounded by lots of young people, but there is something about the nighttime culture almost, of staying up, of watching films, of Snapchatting or whatever it is people do. And obviously some people may go clubbing, lots of people don't, you know, whatever it is people do on a weeknight. It isn't, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it's almost like not too trendy to be able to go to bed early. You know, it's not cool enough, is it?
No, it isn't.
How do you address that then, you know, as a sort of subculture, youth culture thing? You know, it's not cool to go to bed early, so how do you fix that?
I think you just need to get yourself into a routine, like forget what others are saying and what everyone thinks is cool nowadays, because they're not going to wake up in your body, if you get me. So if we're staying up late to please someone else, they can't wake up in the morning for us and go do our job and go do our things for us. So we need to just adjust to our own routine, go to bed early. If you go to bed early, you wake up early, you're in a more happier mood. So I know if I get up like in the late afternoon, I'll be like proper like dead during the day. But if I get up like in like 9-10 o'clock, then I'll be alright, I'll be in a happy mood. These guys know me, like they know I'll be jolly and that. But yeah, just forget about what everyone else says is cool, but forget about the youth culture or whatever, because you need to do whatever's best for you.
I think youth culture is important, and obviously like having a social life, and social media is a very powerful tool these days. Everyone's using it, everyone's on it, you know, there's Snapchat, Instagram, you can't escape from it, it's part of our lives. But I think that's why self-care is so important, because messing up something like your sleeping routine, which is so vital to your health, it really does just sum up everything that self-care is about. It's about ignoring the trends and trying to be part of something that, you know, isn't going to help you balance your life or, you know, benefit your mental health. Having a good night's sleep and actually taking care of yourself and understanding what self-care means. It means, you know, being yourself within your own space and taking it's, you know, mindfulness and your own well-being, and being able to recognize that, and maybe ignoring Snapchat for the night and actually going to sleep. We all do it. We'll have nights when we're up all night talking to each other, but being able to recognize the fact that you need your sleep and your own health, personal health, physically and mentally, is more important than using filters and chatting to your friends all night. I think being able to recognize that and act upon it is really important.
And I think there's something about, you can do that maybe once or twice a week, but not to do it every day, and understand actually sometimes you do need to take that time out, like you were saying, IQRA, you take that time out to look after yourself, but then, you know, have fun as well, and having fun is part of self-care as well, and doing things that you enjoy.
And not feel guilty, because, you know, Sasha's, I in my day job, I have quite a demanding role, so, and it, you know, I can be talking to dozens and dozens of people throughout the day and dealing with quite challenging stuff. And then I used to feel guilty when I came home and then didn't want to speak to anyone else and just wanted time out for me, whether that was just to collapse in front of the TV or just lie prone on the bed or just play with the cat or whatever it was. I used to feel guilty about it, and it's taken me a while to get to the stage where I've gone, actually, alhamdulillah, I do my best, work my hardest, and then if I need some time for me, that's fine. You know, and it's a balance, isn't it? So I'm not being selfish by saying, actually, you know what, I've had an absolute mother of a week and I just need a few minutes to myself. And a few hours even, whereas in the past I would have gone, oh no, I should be doing something else, so-and-so wanted me to visit them, so-and-so needed something, you know, and I'd be feeling very much the pressure of, you must go and do it, whereas now I kind of go, yeah, came home, tired, didn't go out again.
That's like what self-care is about. It's about like knowing you need to stop, you need to wind down, you need to have some time for yourself. You don't need to always go do other people's tasks for them. You need to be able to socialise and just have time to relax, because if you're always running about every day, you're gonna get ill, like mentally and physically ill. You're not gonna have any time to socialise. So yeah, self-care is about just winding down, just taking care of yourself, even if it is for a few minutes a day, because you need to do self-care every day just to make sure you are the perfect you at the end of the day.
And would it be fair to say self-care can take different forms? So for some people, and you can give me some examples, but I'm just thinking like, okay, we're here and we're on a Muslim TV channel, so a lot of people who watch, are Muslim, but for some people that the time that they take out to do the namaz might be part of that,
definitely.
that might be the bit where they say, okay, I'm getting off the merry-go-round, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to, communicate with, my God, and I'm going to just contemplate,
I think that's such an amazing example, because sometimes, obviously with our religion, we have to pray 5 times a day, and I think the fact that we can do that, it's amazing, because some people go do yoga and all these other exercises to wind down, but the fact that we can just pray and just follow our faith, that's this form of self-care. I mean, that's an amazing example of look after yourself, because you stop thinking about everyone else, you pray to your God, you're communicating with your God, and it's different to anything else. So that's a really good example of self-care.
And it's one, alhamdulillah, that's built into our routine, isn't it? And that's the other thing, sometimes, it's that balance between sort of deen and dunya, isn't it? We think they're really at odds, but it's kind of been designed for us in our religion that it's not at odds, because ultimately our faith is about balance as well. So yes, be kind, helpful, giving, loving to everyone, but then it also, preservation of life is paramount, so looking after you is really, really important in our religion as well. So that's quite powerful. What other examples of self-care, what can people do? Particularly, men, women, I mean, your dad might go off and play football. I'm really playing into all the stereotypes stuff and today, but it's just sometimes it's helping people think, actually, that's a small act of self-care.
Small chores, not chores, but like just cooking, going into the kitchen, cooking for a while. You're going out of this environment surrounded by people. Sometimes self-care can be with people, so how we socialise, for us, that's a form of self-care in a way, because you stop thinking about other things and you're just having fun. And doing these activities helps your mind as well, because sometimes your mind can't take everything that's going on, and sometimes you just have to stop what you're doing for a while. So even cooking, some people say, cooking is a big thing and it's really hard and things, but just like baking a cake or anything, it really helps you, because your mind just goes elsewhere and you're just in that zone of, I've got to bake a cake now, this is really good, like let me just bake a really good cake. Do you know what I mean?
Can you see I'm sort of smirking? I do own baking things, I just don't bake. And I must say, cooking is not my idea of self-care.
Sometimes it's different with different people, obviously, but even doing something that you're not really good at, that could be a form of self-care, because you're learning how to adapt to that environment and to learn to become good at it. So I think that's
one of my big treats, if I'm honest, is I like pottering about my garden. Now again, I've got more enthusiasm for gardening than I have got skill, but that's okay. So I like pottering around, I like feeling important, like I'm making a difference to my garden. And then one of my big treats is to sit on one of the chairs, get myself a cup of tea, and just for 10-15 minutes whilst I drink that cup of tea, watch the bees doing their thing in the garden. And honestly, I just find it so, just talking about it relaxes me. It's like an odd thing.
Connecting with nature, that's another example too. Connecting with nature, going out, going for a walk, spending time with family. I think that's all self-care, because you're out of the zone of other things in your daily life.
You're not stressing about what you need to do, but you're just doing it. You're just spending time with the ones who you love. And like that is a form of self-care, spending time with family, because you're not thinking about everything else. You're not thinking about first world problems. You're just thinking about yourself and your own family. I think socialising with your family is like a type of self-care.
There's a really powerful poem which really, I'm sure it was written about me really, but anyway, I can't say it all off the heart, but it's on social media so you'll find it very easily. It's called Dust If You Must, and basically it's just talking about yes, if you really think it's important, dust that thing, do it, and it's kind of this person not living their life because they're so obsessed with dusting and maintaining everything just so, and then at the end it was just saying, because at the end you will be dust, and who's going to remember you, so when we pass, as it will happen to us all, at some point, people aren't going to remember that your shelves were dusted. They'll remember what you did with them. They'll remember what you left behind.
Yeah,
and it's really powerful, because this is an argument I have with my sister, who is very, very house proud, and dusting is a thing. So like that little bit of dust there will be like, that's disgusting. There's dust everywhere, and I'm kind of going, yeah, I'm off. I'm going out. I'm leaving it. It's making those choices, isn't it? And that dealing with that dust will be someone's form of self-care, because that's the way they'll find housework therapeutic. Cleaning windows will be therapeutic. I've got a nephew who noticed I took a picture in my garden of the clouds reflected in the window, and he didn't say great clouds, great trees, anything. He went, nice clean windows. And it made me laugh that he's 17, that he noticed the windows first and not the other stuff. So I think that is quite powerful. So in terms of, we've been talking about self-care, what do you think are the sort of big challenges for young people health-wise at the moment?
Knowing what self-care is. I think mental health, there's such a stigma surrounding it that, if you've got an eating disorder, if you're a sufferer from anxiety, that it's not a physical, like you can't physically see it, so it's not an illness, but in actual fact it can be worse than a physical illness, or, a physical display, like an appearance on your body. Yeah,
because sometimes the stuff that goes on inside has a greater impact on you. So if someone, Allah forbid, had a broken ankle, you could see it, people would help you get on the bus, get off the bus, etc. It's a very physical, if temporary disability. But if you've got, I don't know, if you've got severe depression, you really struggle to get out of bed in the morning, you struggle to keep appointments, I don't know, might have a built-in fear of sort of open spaces, etc. It's difficult because they can be multi-layered, can't they? Getting on that bus would be just as hard, but for different reasons. But no one necessarily will be there to offer you a hand and go, it's okay, if you feel claustrophobic, we can stop the bus. It's interesting, isn't it? So I think that distinction between the physical and the invisible, but just as important.
Yeah, but there's lots of stigma surrounding young people actually taking time out for self-care. So if they cancel on a friend, it's like, oh no, you're being a bad friend. Or if you don't reply to a text message within the first 5 minutes, it's like, what are you doing, where are your friends? I think it's involving themselves too much with, worldly things and materialistic desires, rather than actually remembering the reason they're here, and that, your body is a gift from God, and actually your first duty as a student on the earth is to take care of yourself before you can help anyone else. So I think doing events like Self-Care Everywhere really just symbolises how important self-care is for young people and for anyone. It's just the kind of importance of being able to be balancing your social life, your work life, your home life, balancing it all to kind of make sure your own well-being is at its peak. Just so that
one of the things that I liked about the event that the young people created was they showed how easy self-care can be. So yes, we have lots of challenges in society, but at the same time, there are things that young people can do and create amongst themselves that do help them to look after each other and look after themselves, and just kind of how simple that can be, but also how they can understand what the barriers and challenges that they are facing. And there are lots of things around relationships, around family life, around school pressures, around knowing their own rights, lots of things that do affect young people. But by being aware and by looking after themselves, they can actually be stronger to deal with that. And I think that's what was really great about the event that the young people created, was to really bring that out and have a voice as to how they want things around. So I think as I said earlier, I work for the NHS, and I think we've got a responsibility as to how do we support people to be able to self-care in a way, and by listening to young people as to what works for them, I think that really helps us to understand their perspective, what they enjoy and what works for them, and that we build that rather than trying to say to people, you must go and exercise 5 times a week and you must eat this way. Actually, if we give them the skills and resources to think about, actually have breakfast or go for a walk, do things with your family, actually they're much more natural things that we do, rather than labelling and stigmatising people to have to do certain courses on losing weight, or and labelling people as being obese so that then they don't want to do things. But actually, the young people really gave us a lot of things to think about as to how we label people, how we actually isolate people sometimes by saying you must go on this course to do this and learn how to use your inhaler this way. I think the young people really kind of gave us a lot to think about, and a lot to think about how we make services better for people in the future, and real credit to all the young people that were involved to put that event together and create that dialogue.
Fantastic. So I've got to ask you, because we've started talking about it quite naturally. So this event happened this weekend.
Saturday.
So I'm going to, seeing as I'm going loud and proud with stereotypes, really shouldn't you have been in bed snoring away, staying up all night? I mean,
Exactly,
why are you bothered? Why do you
Why
care?
do we bother?
Why
do we
did you
care?
put this event together, and what did
Exactly.
it take? So
I think just coming together as the youth of Bradford, and not just young people, but hearing ideas from old people, because we need them ideas. Just coming together like that, it was a huge thing for Bradford, because we don't really see these kind of events apart from the Women of the World Festival that we held last year. We don't really get to, it's not really publicised. So it was really good for people to come together like that, and not only were the ideas shared, but their problems were shared too. So whatever problem they had, whether it was to do with body confidence or how to be healthy or whatever, there was a workshop for that, and relationships and stuff. So I think this event was amazing at just pulling all the ideas together and having workshops for different types of people, because there were different types of people there. There was a variety, and that was the best thing about it, because we saw so many people there that we connected with. Even though they were strangers, we still connected with them. So bringing people together in Bradford that was the best thing, I think, about the event.
fantastic. I mean, I saw some of the pictures and some of the reactions on Twitter and Facebook, so it did look pretty amazing. And I believe you got Bradford trending again.
We twittered, we beat the rugby, so just second just to pride.
I know, it's so exciting.
achievement,
isn't
isn't
it? Yeah, it always is. I remember the first time we did it last year with a big event we were involved in, and honestly we were that excited. I don't know if I can say that, we almost peed ourselves, it was just like, oh my God, it was like we're in the top 10, we're in the top 5, oh my God, we're in the top 3.
It's everything that we worked for as well. As Sasha said, as young people, we attended the workshops very early in the mornings, and we went to Macmillan Towers months before, and we gave ideas, and to think that the event would be this successful, we found that it was really great, because we felt like we were being heard in a way through these events. So that's another good thing about holding these types of events in Bradford.
So what were your highlights?
The chief executive of NHS England coming and actually coming down to the event was amazing. To know that we're kind of connecting and making those connections with people in a big, like, high status, it is really amazing, because it's showing us the power that we have to actually change Bradford for the better. You know, on the planning days we came up with 30 different hashtags, and the one that was chosen was self-care everywhere, because it really just kind of emphasised on the fact that self-care is significant everywhere in your daily lives, and for someone from such a high status to actually recognise that, you know, the youth in Bradford is putting in this amazing amount of effort to put on these events, to connect with other young people in Bradford, just being recognised and being appreciated by anyone attending the event. It just shows that it is an issue that is important to the people of Bradford, and these events, you know, are really important to have, and kind of reaching out to people about these issues is really important, because it isn't talked about enough. You know, the stigma surrounding mental health, you know, even physical health sometimes, you know, they're very controversial, unapproachable issues that people just don't want to talk about. So opening these conversations, you know, the ages of 16 and connecting with these people, I think it's what the city needs. And I feel like what we held, it's never been seen in another city. You know, I feel like we really did make a stand, and we showed what Bradford is capable of. You know, there's a lot of stereotypes and an image of Bradford, and kind of breaking the glass ceiling, and, you know, everyone in the city only being capable of doing a certain task of being a mother or a housewife, and actually breaking that, saying, no, at 16 I will break these stereotypes and I will actually go out there and show people how powerful I am and what I am capable of. It just shows and kind of makes us feel that we can make so much more change in the future, and that we have, you know, bigger and better projects that we could be planning for soon.
Subhanallah, that's alhamdulillah, that's a lovely thing to say, and then the way you summed it up, I was just mesmerised by you then. And I was just
that's what
here
we always say. That's what we always say, like, whenever one of us speaking, it's just like mesmerising.
Oh, mashallah, no, but it's a beautiful thing. But then equally, I've got a question to ask. So how do your parents cope with you very shy, quiet, you know, knowing your place kind of girls that you are, you know?
I think some of our parents
clearly
are
the complete opposite, but you know.
I think some of our parents are watching
right
this,
now.
so
Shout out to our parents, brother.
but I think obviously we've been really busy these last few weeks. We've just left school, we finished our GCSEs, and it's been a huge thing in our lives, obviously, for the next step, A levels in some cases. But I think our parents are proud. Like, if you're watching, Dad, are you proud?
Mum, are you proud?
Are you proud? Well, they're proud of the fact that we're going out, we're stepping out of this stereotype or zone of bubble basically, of how not students, but like children or young people should just stay at home, or not even that, just do other things like sports or whatever. They can't go out, they can't let their voices be heard. And the fact that we've held so many other events, and this event especially, where we could speak. We had our own workshop, body confidence workshop, and that was, I think our parents would probably be really proud of us, because we had people there asking us questions, and we had girls stood up there crying their eyes out, because there are problems surrounding body confidence, and there are problems for young people, but they're just not being talked about. So the fact that we're addressing these issues, and we're really going up, we've been to London, we've been to all these different places, and we're connecting with the world.
Afghanistan,
we've had a Chicago call, and the fact that we're doing these things, I think our parents would be proud, if I say so myself.
I think as young Muslim girls, there's like this cultural thing that the girls shouldn't be allowed to go out. They should stay at home, they should help their parents, they should do all these type of things. But at Speakers, we've learned that this cultural thing, it's not, our religion teaches us to go out and make a difference. Like the Prophet's wives, they were working, but now, like in this age of society, seeing that Muslim girls can't go out, they can't go to work, they can't make a difference. But I think we fought back at that stigma, and we broke that stereotype, because us girls now, we've helped so many young girls, mashallah. Like so many girls have stepped out the bubble, like so many girls come up to us asking us, we're only 16, we haven't lived our lives yet, and asking us for advice. But alhamdulillah, like I think our parents are very proud of us. Like, Mum, you better burn down. Because, like, with our parents, I think they know that we're trying to make a difference to this world, because this world is pure evil. It's like, there's so many horrible people out there. And to know that we're there and making a difference to so many young people's lives, even older people's lives, they're so proud of us.
They get happy seeing people.
Because they're so happy when they see us, like, doing workshops or, like, doing things.
We categorise the older people as well too much. The fact that they're old means that they have experience, they've gone through the situations that we've been in, and at this event, that's what we also highlighted. We had different types of people there, and we were like, we want to hear your voices too, the older generation, because we know what you've been through, we know that your experience will help us. And I think that's not even talked about, even because with their experiences, it's not being highlighted that they can help us through this dunya in a way, because we've got loads of things to learn yet, but the fact that we have this support from from people that are very different, that will help us even more. So I think that was another highlight of the event, meeting new people, and now we've got connections that I don't think people forget, and meeting people that really want to change Bradford in a not saying that Bradford is awful, it's an amazing city, but we have got
some challenges.
Yeah, we have got challenges, and we do want to work on them challenges. So getting people to help us to work on that challenge, that was the best thing about this event too.
But like connecting with others is really important. Like we surround ourselves with women who are older than us and have so much more experiences than us, who are working in different fields. Like, you know, Sasha's working in the NHS, and I've got family who work in the NHS, but actually being able to speak to someone where there's no barriers, that I can ask, you know, difficult questions and controversial questions, and it's okay because we're a safe space at Speakers Corner, and I can ask, and I know that I'm not being judged for asking those questions. And to be able to do that and challenge, I mean, it's important to have culture, obviously, you know, you have to, it's life skills, knowing how to cook, you know, it's just survival, but being able to do that at the same time, balancing it and actually making a change to the city, it's a huge thing. And I think Speakers Corner really allows that. You know, we're going to do so much more with the space to open it up to boys and girls, because it isn't just girls who face the challenges. Because if only women make the change, in the end it'll just flip backwards on itself, because then men will be in the position we're in.
We can't leave 48% of society behind.
Definitely.
That's a change we have to make together.
That's the other thing. So I think, sorry Sasha, you wanted to come in?
I was just going to say what Erin said about people looking after each other, and you know, at the workshop people did get upset at the event, but what was really great was how young people looked after each other, and kind of really untapped their own resources and skills to look after each other. And there was a young boy, 10-year-old, who talked about creating happiness ambassadors in schools. Jibril, and he basically recognised that self-care is so important, and how we not just look after ourselves but look after those around us, and understand and identify when people are feeling unhappy. So what he has created at school is these happiness ambassadors who at playtime they look to see who are feeling...
So I'm going to have to stop you there. Inshallah, when we come back after the break, we'll talk a bit more about how everyone can be a happiness advisor in their personal life. So inshallah, we'll see you on the other side of this break. Assalamu alaikum.